Good evening and welcome to Fright Night. Hey gang, for those of you old enough to be here enjoying Western Arms with me, then you are definitely old enough to recognize the 80s horror movie reference to one of my favorites, Fright Night. I opened the video like that because what we have in front of us is going to be a bit of a Frankenstein gun, in that we are not restoring a model, an official model rather, from the Western Arms lineup. We are going to be putting a pair of ordnance together, but we're going to be using some components from different models to put together something that I like. And if you guys will just follow along with me in this process, I think at the end we'll have a nice looking gun here. Okay, so just to drop some knowledge on you guys, we're going to go over everything that we've got here in frame. So we've got a P14 frame here, and the neat thing about this frame that not a lot of people know if they haven't really taken their guns apart is that this frame works with Magna or SEW. It doesn't matter, because what does matter and what distinguishes your models from one another is this chassis right here. So whether it's a Magna chassis, whether it's SCW1, SCW23, they're all going to fit inside this OE frame. So what we're going with here for this particular build is going to be an SCW1 system. So you can see it's got that paperclip firing pin in there, and we are going to be removing the OEM one, and we are going to be switching to PGC extended and hardened SCW1 firing pin. I like these a lot. They're discontinued, which is why when I had a chance to get them, I bought a bunch of them. So we're going to SCW1 there, but with our inner barrel assembly, we are going with SCW3 because this is a fixed hop that gives you the best hop effect for our modern WA SCW guns. The other aftermarket edition here is I'm going to be running a cut down Garter 150% recoil spring for this application. I only wanted a little bit of faster split times, faster cycle times, so I cut the spring down, because when you try to use the whole spring with these SCW systems, because these springs were intended to be in the Magnus where they use really super long springs, you try to do that with these, you end up having too much spring. It'll work, but then you're going to end up just turning your slide stop notch into butter on your slide, especially when you're using a plastic one like this. So rather than an ambi safety, we are going to be running with a single-sided right-handed thumb safety here. So I just went with one rather than the ambi, make it cleaner from a carry perspective. And then the rest of our fire control group here, it's all going to be OEWA. We're going to stick with a Wilson style speed hammer, and then we're also going to use the 3-hole trigger. I'm out of the solid triggers, which are my preference, but I do not like the short 1911 style trigger that's really short and almost to the cutout on the frame. I don't like those. So we're going to get started here in just a minute, and we're going to have some fun with this one. Okay guys, let's go ahead and get started. The big pain in the butt here is going to be when we replace that there we go. The big pain in the butt is going to be when we replace that SCW1 firing pin, because we're going to have to take out the tenons that hold the firing pin bar in place, and to do that you have to take out these 0.5 millimeter screws here. So those have to come out, one here, and then you have to tap out the 2 tenons Then once the tenons come out, you have to carefully remove that whole firing pin assembly. So there's going to be this tiny locator spring in there, and then there's going to be a return spring, and then the actual mounting bar that's inside too. All that is a huge pain in the butt, and unfortunately, it's just one of the things that we got to do to put this thing together. So right now, I'm just taking off this inner barrel bushing assembly, because we're going to have to put all this stuff together. So if you put some Teflon tape on the threads for your chamber, the barrel hood, just makes things easier for you later once you attach your outer barrel, because under recoil with all of these guns, that outer barrel has a tendency to back out off the threads and then go out the front of your gun, and that's not a good look. Okay, so got that pin in. So now that the pin is back on, we can go ahead and put the rest of the inner barrel bushing assembly on. There we go. We're going to put this back on. Perfect. We're just going to try to get things out of the way before we get to working on that firing pin assembly. So at this point, we've got our trigger bar and trigger in. I'm going to go ahead and put in our magazine release. That's perfect. So we'll set that aside since we're done with that. Oh dear. So now it's time for this guy. As you can see, these screws are frustratingly tiny. Man, I really don't remember them being that small and short, but these are. Okay. All right, guys, so this is coming out actually much nicer than it usually does. So if you grab with your tweezers here and then pull out gently, you'll get your whole assembly. Okay. Shoot. So those are the tenons that keep your firing pin assembly in place. And you can see that there's a retaining pin down there on the end, return spring in the middle, and then you've got your locator spring here. And the locating spring and that return spring inside are the fragile parts of this SCW1 system, which is why they went to convert it to the SCW2 and 3 transfer bar firing pin system. Okay, so there's our SCW1 PGC hardened pin. So get you there on the zoom. Come over a little bit here. Come in just a little bit tighter. I think that's as tight as I can get with the digital zoom. I think that's okay. Yeah. Okay. So you can see just here, even without measuring with calipers, the length of the PGC hardened firing pin. It's longer than our stock version. It's also made out of hardened steel. So it's going to be more robust, but it comes with its own problems here. So we've got the locator spring here. There's the return spring. So we're going to transfer all of this to the new firing pin. Now the whole reason for that locator spring, if you take a look here at the hammer, when you drop this on a valve with no gas in it, and then it just stays in the decocked position, your firing pin rests in this channel down here. Now everything is still going to work like that, like the stock gun, but the problem is once you've dropped your hammer on gas with no mag and your firing pin is depressed and it's come to rest inside this cavity, once you drop that magazine, you're not going to be able to put it back in, because this firing pin is going to be sticking out inside the grip. So before you put your magazine in, you're going to have to cock your hammer, firing pin's going to go back, and then your magazine can go back in again. So it can be argued that we could just stick with the stock firing pin assembly, which we can. But, as long as we've got an upgraded part, and this one I know actually produces a little bit more power, we're just going to go ahead and do it. Makes it feel snappier, too, when you've got more gas coming up and getting routed to the blowback unit. Now we have to try to get all this to fit back in there. Once everything is slotted into place, you need to put your set screws back in. So you want to check and make sure everything's lined up. You can still see your locating spring there. Everything's inside now. So we can go ahead and put the rest of this together. So I'm not sure how much longer this hammer is going to last. If it's just going to be casual shooting and I don't plan on fielding this, we should be okay. But at some point, it looks like this is going to end up suffering the same type of failure that they usually do, which unfortunately you can see here. That's where they always snap. So seeing that this is a stock hammer rather than reinforced garter unit, and of course Garter had never made hammers for this one. You could get still components from companies like PHX and who else made one for this? Anvil. Anvil ones are particularly expensive. But the good news is if you have a bunch of these Wilson style speed hammers hanging around from old Magna guns that you've since upgraded, you can just machine your own notch in here and it should last you for quite a while. So we've got our retaining pin transferred over and my struts in. So now we're just going to proceed with assembly of the rest of the gun. Okay, so if you guys are concerned with ease of assembly, I've got my SCW1 inner chassis here, and we're about to go into our grip frame. And it's actually much easier than what you do with the single stacks. This bad boy just slides in. That's it. Now you're ready to start putting stuff together. Well guys, I took off my old man glasses because I was tired of them sliding off my face, and I think for the rest of this reassembly, I don't think I'll need it. Let's go ahead and move forward. I'm not gonna lie, I'm excited about this because this has been sitting in the project bin for quite a while, waiting for me to get to it. Let's see, are we gonna go with black? Or are we gonna use the raw metal one? Black one does look cool, but I think we'll go with the in the white one. I gotta put my spectacles back on. So I've got this magnifying unit on it so I can actually see what's going on. Okay. Well, that was lucky. Now we're going to play our threading game again. I was going to pass a file over these hammer notches with the sear engagement surfaces, but aside from the surface wear here, they actually look pretty good, so all I'm going to do is just clean it up a little bit. We're going to just get the grime out here with my pick. We've got the hammer in and the rest of the fire controls, and we're going to finish putting all these pins in, and we'll finish up the assembly here. We'll test. Movement on this firing pin now is not the smoothest, so we're going to apply some super lube here. Wow, that's really stiff. Now there's a reason why I'm putting my finger here on that forward face. It's because I don't want the return spring inside the firing pin to float. That's what happens with these if you dry fire them without a magazine in place and there's no resistance to the firing pin and just go straight forward. You end up floating that spring there. And then it's game over. Okay, looks like it works now. I'm gonna put our slide together.